Waji Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the first lecture of Modern Control Systems. I am your presenter Mohammad Rafiz Ukhtai from UET Lahore. Today we will basically discuss a brief introduction of what basically control system is, and we will see the course outline, we will see the lecture plan, and we will see the flow of the course. So before we go directly to the course outline, let's first discuss some of the basic things that you people should know about the control systems. To begin with, first of all, control system is actually the part and parcel of our society, of our modern society. Uh, if you see around yourself, if you look around yourself, you will see control system in almost every other thing around you. Even yourself, human body is actually a classic example of control systems. How? If we talk about the basic definition of the control systems, so we can define. Let's first define control system. What is control system? Then we will see uh, what is the basic definition of control system. Basically, a control system consists of a subsystems and processes assembled for the purpose of obtaining a desired output with desired performance given a specified input. For example, if you are asked to do something, to manufacture something, then obviously you will require a plant, you will require instruments, you will require conveyors and something like that. You will require all the physical equipment to build that product. And to control those physical equipment, you need something like a brain or anything that can control or that can move those equipment. So the equipment itself forms the part of the process, and how they move is controlled by the control system or the brain. So by this basic definition, we can see there are three basic components of a control system. And what are they? Uh, basic components basic components of control systems. What are the basic components of the control systems? First is the sensors, other is the processor, and third is the actuator. So let's get back to the example of the human body. Human body have the sensors, which we call senses. Human body have processors, which we call brain, and human body have actuators, which we call hands, feet, your tongue, your face, everything is the actuator. So when you turn on the fan and you feel that there is cold, you slow down the fan. What does it mean? It means that your sensors have sensed that you are feeling cold, and your mind has processed this information and has ordered your hands or the actuators to go and reduce the speed of the fan. So this whole cycle completes the control system. So basically, this all human body itself is control system. All the processes inside the human body or all the sub processes inside the human body forms a control system. They are assembled for the purpose of obtaining a desired output with the desired performance. This was the basic, you can say, the definition of the control systems, or the example of control system. If you look at the elevator, anything around you, or everything is controlled. Everything has the controller. Everything has the actuator. Everything has the sensors by which you can feel. Sensor can, you can say that not everything have sensors, but sensor can be the part of the control system. Now, how can we measure the performance of the control systems? How can we say that one control system is better than other control system? For this, we have basically two types of responses. One response is called a transient response, and other is called the steady state response. Now, what is the transient response and the steady state response? A transient response of a system is basically the response of a system uh, when you change the state of that system from equilibrium. This is, by you can say, the definition of a transient response. But what it actually is, what is the transient response in practical? For example, if we talk about the transient response, let's see, let's suppose uh, you have a, let's go back to the example of fan. When the fan is turned off, input voltage to the fan is 0 volt. When it is off, when it is turned on, input voltage is, let's say 220 volt when it is on. So you must be thinking that when we have turned on the fan, then the input voltage went from 0 to 220 in just like a step. Here we have 0 volt and here we have 220 volt. If we say this is time and this is voltage, at time t is equal to 0, you switch on the fan and input voltage goes from 0 to 220 volt. Is this practically possible? No, it is not, because fan was in its equilibrium state. When we turned on the fan, the input voltage did not go from 0 to 220 volt instantly. Instead, they followed a pattern. What is ideal? Ideally, it should go from 0 to 220 volt 0 to 220 volt instantly, ideally. But it obviously, if you have if you have an ideal control system, you have no resistant losses, and everything is perfect, you have perfect, you are living in a perfect world, then still it is not possible that it instantly go from 0 to 220 volts. So what actually happened? Let's draw what actually happens. This is kind of, you can say, a sample waveform, or a typical waveform. This waveform which I have drawn can be changed depending upon the type of, you can say, control system, or depending upon the uh, quality of control system. As we are talking about the performance of a control system, so better the performance of the control system, the better the quality of waveform we get. So this is the required, black line is the required voltage, and blue line is actually what happens when you turn on the fan. So this do not go from 0 to 20 volt instantly, but it has a slope, it has ripples, it has overshoots, and it has some difference. What is this basically denote? We can say that at this point in time it reaches to 20 volt. So this time we can say TR means rise time of our control system. We will study this in detail in our subsequent lectures. But to give you brief introduction, I am just discussing it for the sake of introduction about the performance of our control systems. This is the overshoot, and this is the error. This is, you can say, from there here to here. You can say this is the settling time. So a control system which has less overshoots, which has small rise time, small settling time, and obviously small error, would be a good control system. But when you reduce the rise time, when you reduce this TR, these overshoots automatically increases. Why? Because its slope increases. Why? We will discuss why in detail in our subsequent lectures, but uh, the purpose of telling you this is that there is a trade-off. Obviously there is nothing can be ideal, there is always a trade-off. You can improve the rise time, but at the same time you can destroy the overshoots, you can increase the overshoots. You can improve the settling time, but at the same time ripples can increase. However, the second criteria, this is called the transient. This complete waveform is called the transient response of a system. When the system was at equilibrium and we changed its state from equilibrium, it was at rest. Its input voltage was 0. We changed its input voltage from 0 to 220. So obviously its equilibrium state is changed. So ideally it should move to 220 volt instantly, but it doesn't. It moves with this pattern, and this is the response of that system. And this response would be good if rise time is low, overshoots are less, and steady state error is small. If we can say if these this criteria, if rise time is less, overshoot is less, and error is less, then we can say that performance of a control system is good. And if the steady state error is large, we can say that obviously it is not up to the mark. So how can we improve it? We improve it with the help of controllers. We improve it with the help of additional controllers in our system. One of the famous controller that controls these performance parameters is PID controller. Again, we will discuss in detail about this. What is the PID controller? Um how can we set the parameters of the PID controller? But in short, PID controller improves the performance of your system. Okay, so what is basically we have seen the performance of a control system, we have seen the basic definition of control system, we have seen the basic components of the control system: sensor, processor, actuator. Okay, let's discuss the components of the control system uh, in terms of the equipment installed in an industry. For example, you are in some you can say ice cream manufacturing plant, or in any of the product manufacturing plants. So what basically product manufacturing is, there are actually three layers. Obviously, I will not go into the detail of the layers. Here we have all the instruments, or we can say the actuators. What are the actuators? Like motors, valves. These are the actuators, as well as instruments comprises of actuators as well as sensors. Now there are, obviously depending upon the product, there are multiple kind of sensors: level sensor, pressure sensor, and the temperature sensor, etc, etc. Okay, this information of sensors go to the control system, and control system orders the actuators to perform or to operate as per recipe or as per the logic. And there is a third layer which you are not supposed to know at this moment. This is the supervisory layer. Let's just skip this layer for the time being. We will discuss it later if time allows. Okay, so what is this actuator, sensors, control system? For example, uh, uh, to explain this scenario, in this instrument layer, let's suppose in this instrument layer we have a bucket which is being filled with some kind of tap and have a valve installed on that pipe of that tap. Here we have level transmitter. So when the fluid is being poured into this container, its level rises, rises till it reaches the level transmitter. So this level transmitter, which is actually a sensor, senses that your level is above your some specific point, which we may call a set point. That your level is, you can say, is above the specific set point. So it conveys this information to control system, and control system orders the actuator, which in this case is a valve, or it can be a pump, anything which is moving water into this bucket. So control system orders this valve to stop. To control system basically closes this valve. We can say closes, control system closes this valve, and the water level stays at this point. So we have basically controlled uh, the water level or any liquid level in the container with the help of this small loop of a control system. In this loop, what is sensor? Sensor is a level transmitter. In this loop, what is a control system? This control system can be anything. It can be a controller, or basically it's a PLC, programmable logic controller. So you just consider it a controller. So sensor gives information to a controller and controller orders the actuator. Actuator in this case is valve, pump, it can be a pump or anything. Orders the valve to stop the water or it closes the valves. So in this way, we can improve the response of a valve. We can. There are obviously there can be discussion that valve should be closed in some specific amount of time. So that discussion is towards improving the performance of valve or towards improving the performance of a control system. So basic control system is uh, you have sensed something, you have given it to the control system orders the actuator to move accordingly. Okay, so here now we are in a good position to generalize control system in two major categories. After now what knowledge we have gained at this point in time, we know the basic definition, we know the components, we know that control system contains sensors, control system has processor, control system has actuator. We know that how we measure the performance of a control system. There are two major criteria: transient response and steady state response. What is transient response? What is steady state response? We have discussed with an example, and this is just an example from an industrial manufacturing plant, from where we can visualize what is what is an actuator, what is a sensor, and what is the controlling component. So therefore we are now in a good position to generalize control systems in two major categories. Number one is open loop control system. These are basically two major categories of a control systems: open loop control system and closed loop control system. Closed loop control system is what I was discussing what I was discussing few moments back. Now what is we will discuss these one by one. Closed loop control system, you have a good idea about closed loop control system. We will discuss with examples shortly. And what is open loop control system? Okay, let's discuss the example of fan again. The fan is turned off. You go to the switchboard, you turn on the fan, and fan turns on. Okay. Now you have no mechanism to change the speed of the fan. Even if you are feeling cold, you cannot change the fan. You cannot uh, change the speed of the fan. So this is basically an open loop system in which you have an input, you have a system, and you have an output. There is no feedback. No feedback means no sensor. There is no sensing device which is measuring your output. There is, if you, for example, if you are driving a car and if your car has a cruise control, if your car has a cruise control which actually maintains the speed of your car, which automatically maintains the speed of your car. So if you set the speed at, let's say, 120 kilometer per hour, You have set the speed at 120 km per hour. Now the process inside the car uh, gives appropriate acceleration so that it moves to the 120 km per hour. But if there is no tachometer or if there is no mechanism to measure the speed or to verify that it has actually regained it has actually gained the speed of 120 km per hour, then there would be no use of this system. You are giving the input and uh, you are just relying on the component that by giving this input your speed would automatically go to 120 km per hour, and you have no idea that if it actually went to 120 km per hour. However, in closed loop, you measure the speed, you feed it back to the input or you feed it back to the comparator, you measure the speed, you feed it back to the comparator where it comparator compares that if this output is actually close to the desired output, it generates an error signal, alters the input, and uh, makes the output as close to your desired output as possible. However, in open loop system, you have no control of the output. You have no control, or you are not sensing the output. If you are not sensing the output, you cannot generate an error signal. If you are, you can only generate an error signal if you are sensing an output and feeding it back to the input. If there is, let's suppose, if there is some disturbance D added into the system at this point, you have no way of knowing that disturbance was added if this feedback path is not there. So feedback path provides you information about the actual output which you can compare with the desired output, and then you alter your input accordingly to get the desired output. If we draw a closed loop control system again, this is input, this is process, this is output. This output can be compared or processed, or you can have a controller at this point. This can be any controller. It can compare the output or whatever the operation you want to do. It is basically the application specific block. So you feed it back, you generate an error signal. This is comparator. This comparator basically compares your output signal and with the desired output and generates an error signal. Which this error signal is then fed back to the process, or uh, this error signal is possibly, if we say this is not the process, if we draw another block and call it a process P. This is C, controller. This error signal is fed to the controller, which then controls your process, which can increase your input, amplify your input, or decrease your input, whatever action is required. It asks the process to take that action so that your actual output, is as close to desired output as possible. However, this feature or this functionality is not possible in your open loop system. In open loop system, again, I am actually uh, taking open and closed loop side by side in this lecture so that you can well imagine both, keeping them both side by side. Again, if I draw an open loop system, how I will draw an open loop system. This is an input. Input is given back to some input transducer. I'm trying to draw a typical open loop system. This input transducer gives its input to the controller. This is basically a typical open loop system, and let's add disturbance as well. Disturbance, disturbance number 01, and this is, you can say, a summing junction. So here your disturbance is being added into the system. In practical scenario, you wouldn't be knowing about this disturbance. It would be automatically being added from atmosphere, or it can be an aging factor. It can be anything. This disturbance can be anything. And this is your process, or you can say a plant, manufacturing plant. So your input before coming into the manufacturing plant normally get processed through these conventional blocks. So this process, after we have achieved the output, let's add another disturbance, D2, and then output. Now can you visualize that this output obviously would not be equal to the desired output. This is actual output, and obviously this would not be equal to the desired output. Why? Due to the disturbance 01 and disturbance 02. Your input signal is also being disturbed before reaching the plant, and your output signal is also being disturbed after it moves out of the process. So that is why your output is not uh, equal to the what was desired. What is the error between desired and actual? That depends. That depends upon the disturbances, that depends upon the scenario, that depends upon the typical system, that even depends upon the input type. So this error, how much difference from how much difference is between actual and desired, it obviously depends. However, if I want to take it from here, if I let's make this open loop system closed loop. At the moment, the system you are looking at your screen is an open loop system because there is no feedback path. Nothing is going back into the input or into the controller. We have idea that the actual output would be different from the desired output, but we don't actually know exactly whether it is different or not, because we are not even measuring the output. We are not giving it back to the input. We are not analyzing the output. We haven't installed any sensor that senses that output and give it back to the controller or the input so that appropriate actions could be taken uh, for the output to become the desired output. Now if I want to close this loop, currently this is an open loop system. So in black you have an open loop system. By red I am now trying to close this loop. I am now trying to close this loop. So this is, if I say this is the output, now I am taking this output and moving it back. Hmm, let's add a block. Taking the output from output transducer, or transducer is basically a sensor, so I can also write output sensor. I have sensed the output and given it back here. So now an error signal will be generated here, which will go to the controller, and controller will then decide what actions should be taken so that your output is equal to the uh, desired output. Currently, when it was an open loop system, there was no way of knowing that your output was equal to desired output or not. Rectifying it is obviously the next level thing. So by closing this loop, by giving this feedback path, we have actually made it from open loop to closed loop. Open loop has no feedback, closed loop has feedback. So if let's go back to the simplest fan example again. If you are feeling cold, it means that your sensors have sensed that the temperature is below the desired temperature. Okay, your temperature sensor have sensed that the temperature is below the desired temperature. So it will give information to the controller, which is your brain. Brain will process the information and will do the necessary action. What is the necessary action? The necessary action is to move your hand and feet, go to the switchboard, slow down the fan so that your temperature is becomes equal to the desired temperature. So by sensing and then going to the switchboard, you have completed a feedback path. Initially it was an open loop. You switch on the fan starts running, fan starts rotating. This is the open loop. Turn on, fan on. This is open loop. There is no feedback. There is no sensing. Just it is moving with one single speed after having 220 volts. But if you have sensed its temperature and you are moving to the switchboard and you have slowed it down, then obviously this is the feedback path. You have basically completed the feedback path. Similarly, in the uh, example of a car cruise control, the tachometer basically detects that the speed is going above or below 120 km per hour. If the speed is going above 120 km per hour, this tachometer will send this information to the controller, to the ECU, you can say electronic control unit of the car. That will obviously do necessary actions, that is apply brakes. Brake here is the actuator, tachometer here is the sensor, and electronic control unit is the control system. So if your speed is moving above 120, this information would be sensed by tachometer, given to the controller. Controller will then actuate the actuators or brake, and it will bring the speed back to 120. In the second scenario, if you are going uphill, then obviously the speed will automatically decrease. When the speed will decrease, that information will be given to the controller by the tachometer. The controller will sense that there is need to increase the input, so that it will, in order to maintain 120 km per hour, the controller will order the throttle to increase the fuel injection, so that your speed is maintained at 120 km per hour. So this is the feedback path in your car cruise control. So these are basically the two basic examples of the feedback path, open loop and closed loop systems. So let's move to the course outline. Okay, this is the basic course outline of your control systems course. Goal of this course is obviously to familiarize student with principle of linear control systems, with a brief overview of signal and systems, concept of analysis and design of continuous and discrete time control systems will be discussed obviously. This is the lecture plan. After brief introduction, we will see the mathematical modeling. This is important. Mathematical modeling of systems. What is the mathematical modeling? We will see that obviously we see many physical systems in our daily routine. Uh, for example, a mass spring system. There is a mass spring system. How can we model this system mathematically is a question mark. In order to study this system, in order to study any system, in order to evaluate system, in order to study if it is stable or not, or in order to study its performance, in order to study its characteristics, we have to have something in a mathematical form, so that we apply formulas and something and the techniques, and anything that exists, any tool, we apply tools to it, so that we measure the performance, stability of the system, and other parameters. So this is the first step that of evaluating a system, that we convert that system into a mathematical model. In order to find its transfer function, in order to find its input output relation, we have to have a mathematical model of that system. So obviously we will see how a mathematical model is derived, how we make use of Newton's formula, and we will see that how differential equations help us how Laplace is basically is of great use in finding the transfer function of a system. After that, we will see the block diagram model. Block diagram model will be block diagram, signal flow would be are basically techniques to represent a system. Obviously, why we represent system in different forms? It's just because by one form we can have some kind of informations, and by some other form we can have a different types of information of the same system, whereas giving you the opportunity to evaluate that system differently. For example, if we can say that if we talk about the transfer system, Any system has only one single transfer function. Transfer function is basically input-output relation. So input-output relation is always the same in any case. But if we represent it in state space, there can be a multiple state space representations of a same system. So if we can represent a system in multiple forms, it means that we can evaluate that system in multiple forms. And there are few scenarios where one form is more simple to calculate, or it gives more mathematical simplicity for evaluation than the other form. Then we have state variable models that I just discussed. State variable, how we write the state equations, how we write the state of the system, what is the usefulness of the state variables, then the transfer function from the state equation. After these 3 and 4, we will go through how we can move from TF to SS, transfer function to SS, or from SS to TF, state space to transfer function. Obviously, we will study the techniques of these two paths. These two paths would be critically important because they help us evaluate multiple features of a system, uh, more importantly, the stability of a system. Then control system characteristics of open and closed loop systems, sensitivity of the control system, steady state error. I have tried to give you a basic flavor of all of these basic uh, terms or basic definitions of the control system in this lecture. Then performance of the input signal. Obviously, performance of a control system. You have an idea about that. Relationship between S-plane, root location, time response, steady state error of unity and non-unity feedback control system. Then the stability, Routh-Hurwitz criteria is very important in finding the stability of a system. And then PID, and PID controllers, which we have discussed in this lecture. I have tried to make a skeleton of control system in this lecture so that it can be filled with time as this course progresses. So when we will start the lecture of PID controller, you should know what is the purpose of PID controller. Obviously, I will reiterate it, but still, you should have an idea, basic idea about where is the role of PID controller in complete control system world. So we have just kind of summarized a complete control system world in this lecture, and obviously we will separately discuss each bit in the future lectures. But which bit belongs to which section, or which bit belongs where, you should be aware of it with the help of this lecture. Then root locus method. Obviously, root locus. What is root locus? It basically defines the stability of a system, how the roots of a system move when certain parameters are changed. So the path that root follows forms a locus. This is called a root locus. And if this root locus goes to the right half plane, the system is unstable. And if this root locus remains in left half plane, the system is stable. So how this root locus is made, we will see. There is a technique of developing this root locus. So you can see that after developing this root locus, we can obviously calculate this. We can obviously visualize the stability of a system for a range of input parameters, or for the range of system parameters. For from What I mean to say, that from this in this region you can operate your system. It will stay stable, and when your inputs or operators go beyond this region, your system will become unstable. So you can basically uh, you can evaluate the range of inputs or the operating range of your system. Your quadcopter or other basic projects are basically uh, evaluated with the help of this root. Their stability is evaluated with the help of this root locus. Then obviously we will see root locus based analysis, then frequency response analysis. What is the frequency response of a system and why the frequency response is important? We will see that. Just to give you a brief idea, you are driving a car and there is a speed breaker in front of you. You must have noticed that at specific speed, that speed breaker hits you hard. However, whereas at some speed, it doesn't feel like it. Matlab, you don't feel it in the same way. Why? Because your system, which is a car in this case, has some inherent frequency. So if your car speed, if your car speed uh, if your car speed is you can say very slow or very fast, so that when it passes through that speed breaker, your system vibrates with your car's fundamental frequency, then it creates resonance. If it creates resonance, then you will feel that speed breaker has hit you very hardly. We try to avoid this resonance because this resonance makes your system, which is car in this case, to move out from the stable region to unstable region. So that is why frequency response analysis is important. Just like you need to know about the root locus, you must have information about the frequency response of a system, so that you must know that at what frequency your system behaves in what way, so that you get the range of operating frequency of your system. So if your speed matches the resonance speed, then obviously that will be a disaster. So it can be it's not always the case that if you are going too slow, then maybe at 20 km per hour, maybe your uh, if we make a speed chart, this is 20 km per hour, 40, 60, 120, and this is the your resonance frequency curve. So at 20, speed breaker will not feel. You will not feel the speed at 160. Same, you will not feel the speed breaker. You will not feel the speed breaker. However, at 70, it will kill you. You will not feel at 20. You will not feel speed breaker at 160. However, at 70 km per hour, it will hit you hard. Why? Because it will match the resonance. Your system will match the vibrations due to that speed breaker will match the natural frequency of your system, and there will be a resonance. So that is why this frequency response analysis is important. So frequency response analysis, root locus, root loc PID, stability, and in this all we will study in this course. And lastly, my interest in this course is basically was amplified when I had an industrial exposure, when I went into the industry and saw that the thing that we study in theory has very little or less to do with the industrial arrangement that we have in Pakistan. Obviously, we don't have much research facilities here, but there is the industry out there, and we have to have the enough knowledge. We have to equip ourselves with enough control system knowledge so that when we get out of the university, we can excel in the industry as well. Control system is part of every industry, whether it is power. Why it is important for you? Why? If someone of you, if someone is uh, looking at this video and he says that I am a power student, I don't need to learn this control system because there is another control system specialization. So this control systems course might be important for control system specialization student, but not for me as I am the student of power specialization. If someone is thinking this, he is wrong because control system is now in everything. Power is moving towards smart grids, and smart grids is kind of a major portion of smart grids consist of control systems. So in order to excel in the industry, in order to excel in any industry, you have to have the best of the knowledge related to the control system. Every industry has instruments, every industry has sensors, every industry has actuators, and every industry has control system that takes the feedback from sensors and actuators and controls them. There is not a single industry which do not contain or which don't have any control system bit in it. So you have to put in your heart into this course uh, to achieve or to excel in your academics as well as in your industry. So in the next lecture we will study mathematical modeling. Till then, if you have any questions related to this video, we can have a live session. We can have a live session for those questions, or you can comment it, or you can email your questions at rafe dot at the rate of uit dot edu dot pk. I will try to address every query, inshallah. Okay, ji. Thank you very much. See you in the next lecture.